Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're asking you to think about, well, reality itself.
Right, how it's constructed.
Imagine your thoughts, your beliefs, even entire cultures, not as fixed things, but as dynamic living systems.
It's a powerful shift in perspective. The idea that our stories aren't just passive accounts.
They're actively building our lives.
Exactly, they're the architects. And that's our focus for this deep dive.
As always, we aim to give you a shortcut to being really well-informed.
We've dug into Jelena Simonovic's book, Cognosystemic Theory of Human Psychosocial Relational Construction, or TCCR.
Quite a title.
It is, but the core idea is about how our shared reality, from individual feelings to whole cultures, is built through stories.
Built and rebuilt, constantly.
Continuously. Through narratives within us and between us.
So today we're focusing on the underpinnings, how general systems theory, GST, gives TCCR its structure.
Precisely. Understanding concepts like open systems feedback, autopoiesis. That's the key.
It helps us grasp how these narrative systems, personal, cultural, stay organized, but also adapt.
Right. How they're both stable and dynamic.
Okay, so let's start with the history. Where did this whole systems thinking tradition come from? The one TCCR builds on?
Well, the real pioneer was Ludwig von Bertalanffy back in the mid-20th century.
With general systems theory, GST.
Yes. It was a transdisciplinary idea. He suggested, quite radically, that principles from biology
could apply elsewhere, like social sciences.
Exactly. A holistic way to look at complexity, moving beyond just isolated parts.
A kind of grand unifying framework. And it caught on outside biology.
Oh, definitely. Sociologists like Talcott Parsons used it. He looked at how societies function, survive.
Seeing society as interconnected systems, personality, culture, actors.
Correct. And then later, Niklas Luhmann, who was really influenced by biologists Maturana and Varela.
The Chilean biologists.
That's them. Luhmann took it further, proposing social systems are autopoietic.
Autopoietic, meaning self-producing.
Self-producing and self-referential, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And crucially, he argued they distinguish themselves from their environment by generating complexity. And they do this mainly through language.
So language isn't just communication, it's structural.
It's fundamental. It's how social systems actually build and maintain their boundaries and existence.
That's a fascinating twist. Language is the building material. So how did this systems thinking filter into practical fields like social work?
Social work adopted it quite early on, actually, to understand people and their environments.
Moving beyond just individual psychology.
Right. People like Payne noted that problems often emerge in the interactions between clients and their social world.
Not just in the person.
Exactly. So models started focusing on connections, informal support. Formal systems.
And those ecosystemic models, like the life model.
Yes, Germain and Gitterman. They really emphasize the continuous exchanges, the transactions between people and their environment.
Seeing the whole picture, the ecology.
The constant interplay. And that leads us right to TCCR's contribution.
Because TCCR doesn't just repeat this tradition.
No, it reclaims it, but also significantly expands it. It aims to give social work its own unique theoretical framework.
Going beyond the earlier limitations.
And offering this distinct relational, narrative, cognitive view of social systems.
Which is where it gets really interesting for me. It integrates subjective experience, how meaning is made socially, knowledge, critical thinking.
It's a really comprehensive view of how we construct psychosocial reality through our stories.
Okay, so TCCR sees reality built from these dynamic narrative systems. What does it mean then for them to be open systems?
Fundamentally, an open system is defined by its constant exchange with its environment. It's not sealed off.
More like a living cell than a closed box?
Good analogy. It takes in inputs, energy, information, even matter, and produces outputs.
And this exchange is essential for it to function.
Absolutely vital. Bertalanffy pointed out this is how open systems resist entropy, that natural slide towards disorder.
Through exchange, they can grow, adapt, find balance?
Maintain themselves, yes. But it's even more dynamic than just resisting decay.
You're thinking of Prigogine, dissipative structures.
Exactly. Ilya Prigogine showed that open systems, especially when they're far from equilibrium, can actually increase in complexity.
They don't just break down, they can reorganize into something more complex.
Right. They go through cycles, order, disorder, transformation, potentially leading to new, more organized states.
Fascinating. So within TCCR, are narrative systems, personal stories, cultural myths, are these open systems?
Fundamentally, yes. whether it's an individual self-narrative, a family story, an organization's culture, or a society's dominant myths.
They're all in constant dialogue.
Constant dialogue with their environment and with other narrative systems. And this happens through what TCCR calls cognosystemic memes.
Cognosystemic memes. Let's unpack that a bit for the listener. What are we talking about?
Think of them as units of narrative information.
Yeah.
An idea, a belief, a way of framing something.
That spreads, like a cultural gene.
Very much like that, inspired by Dawkins' concept. It's a cultural unit that replicates, adapts, gets passed around. It could be a simple phrase, a complex ideology.
The currency of narrative exchange.
Precisely. They carry meaning within and between these open narrative systems.
So the big implication is narratives aren't fixed.
Never static. They're constantly adapting, being reshaped by new experiences, new memes, new contexts.
Like a cultural narrative about, say, national identity having to adapt after mass migration.
Exactly. It integrates new elements, maybe reinterprets old ones to maintain coherence while incorporating the new reality. Or think about a personal narrative of being strong, having to adapt after experiencing vulnerability. The system stays open. The story evolves.
This constant flow and adaptation naturally brings us to feedback. How do feedback loops work in these narrative systems?
Feedback is just fundamental. It's how any system gets information about its own actions and then, adjusts.
Like steering a ship.
Sort of, yes. And there are two main types we need to distinguish: negative and positive feedback.
Okay, negative feedback is probably more familiar. It aims for stability.
Right. It works to maintain equilibrium, to keep the system in its current state or within certain parameters.
The classic thermostat example. Temperature goes down, heat comes on, goes up, heat goes off.
Perfect example. It dampens deviation, preserves the status quo.
And positive feedback. It sounds good, but it works differently.
It does. It amplifies deviation. It promotes change, innovation, sometimes even runaway transformation.
Like that viral social media trend you mentioned earlier, more users lead to even more users.
Exactly. Or think of escalating conflict. One action provokes a stronger reaction, which provokes an even stronger one. It pushes the system away from its starting point.
And Bateson argued that living systems need both.
Gregory Bateson saw that life depends on a dynamic balance between stability, negative feedback, and change, positive feedback. Survival and evolution require both staying the same and adapting.
A constant dance between holding steady and moving forward.
You could put it that way. The life cycle is constant adjustment.
So how does this play out in TCCR's narrative systems? How does feedback explain why some stories stick and others change?
Well, these feedback mechanisms are key to understanding narrative resilience and transformation. They show why certain stories get reinforced, why others evolve, or why some might just collapse under pressure.
And there's an emotional component, too.
Oh, absolutely. Emotions and narratives have this mutual relationship. Strong emotions can anchor a narrative, make it feel deeply true, reinforcing its stability through negative feedback.
And the narrative itself shapes how we feel.
Right. A narrative of victimhood might amplify feelings of resentment, while a narrative of empowerment might foster hope. This shapes the narrative's own evolution, a feedback loop.
And TCCR describes feedback flowing in different directions within the overall Cognosystem, upward, downward.
Yes, that systemic interconnectivity is crucial. There's upward feedback, an individual story influencing the group.
Like a personal testimony sparking a social movement.
Exactly. Then downward feedback, dominant macro-level narratives shaping individual experience.
Like the idea of the American dream shaping personal goals and feelings of success or failure.
Precisely. And finally, horizontal feedback. Narratives at the same level influencing each other.
Like different scientific theories competing or collaborating, or different departments in a company negotiating a shared story.
Yes. This horizontal exchange can create collaboration or tension. Often, it's when narratives clash, narrative friction, that these feedback processes really kick in, pushing the system to readjust, transform, find a new kind of stability.
This idea of systems maintaining themselves leads us to another key concept: autopoiesis, self-generation.
Right, autopoiesis, a concept from Maturana and Varela, those Chilean biologists again.
What was their core idea?
They defined it as the ability of living systems to continuously produce and maintain their own organization, their own components from within.
Like a cell constantly rebuilding itself.
Exactly. It maintains its identity as a distinct entity through this continuous internal process of self-regeneration and self-production.
And TCCR applies this biological concept to narrative systems. How does that work?
The idea is that narrative systems are also autopoietic. They sustain themselves, adapt, transform, using the very narratives they're made of.
So the story rebuilds the story.
In essence, yes. It's self-referential. Think about your personal identity narrative. You don't just tack on new events, you reinterpret past experiences, adjust meanings within the story itself to maintain a sense of coherence and continuity.
That continuous internal tweaking and weaving.
That's the autopoietic process at work in narrative. It maintains the system's identity while allowing for change.
And language must be absolutely central here too.
Foundational. As Luhmann also argued, language isn't just for communication in this view, it's the very mechanism that structures the system, defines its boundaries, enables its self-production.
So language literally creates and recreates our social realities through narrative.
Yes. Narratives, articulated and passed on through language, are how human systems, cultures, identities, institutions self-generate and evolve.
Can you give an example? How does a culture survive narratively?
Think about a national identity. It survives by constantly retelling foundational myths, reinterpreting historical events, adapting its story to new challenges, but always doing so in a way that refers back to and reinforces the idea of that national identity. The narrative generates itself.
Or an organization facing a crisis. Its narrative of who we are might have to shift dramatically.
But it does so by reformulating its core values, its mission, within its own narrative framework. It restructures internally, narratively, to maintain its coherence and identity. That's autopoietic resilience.
Okay, so we have open systems, feedback, autopoiesis. How does TCCR bring these together into a unified model, the Cognosystemic narrative system?
TCCR proposes this comprehensive model where our whole psychosocial reality is understood as a cognosystem.
A system of cognition.
Essentially, yes, a system built from interconnected narrative subsystems. These subsystems are dynamic, they're organized in levels.
They have those cognosystemic memes flowing through them.
Right? Information flows, feedback processes, and this dual capacity for both change and conservation. It's a complex living map of psychosocial reality.
And you mentioned these narrative systems have specific components, 8 elements.
That's right. Briefly, they are experience, perceptions and emotions, context, propositional content, the what's of the story, cognitive evaluation, epistemic attitude, how strongly we believe it, narrative purpose, and narrative function.
We don't need to detail them all now, but it shows these aren't vague notions. They have internal structure.
Exactly. They're complex, interrelated components.
And importantly, they're organized hierarchically, like Bronfenbrenner's model.
Yes, very much echoing Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory. Narratives exist and interact across multiple layers.
Starting small.
With the microsystem. Individual narratives, immediate interactions, like family stories.
Then the mesosystem.
Group and community levels.
Yeah.
A work team's narrative. A neighborhood's shared history.
Moving out to the exosystem.
Institutions, media, larger organizations. A company's official narrative, the way news frames events.
And the broadest level, the macro system.
The overarching cultural blueprints. Dominant societal ideologies, values, legal frameworks, cultural norms. The big stories that shape everything else.
And the key is these levels aren't separate boxes.
Not at all. They're fluid, constantly interacting through that upward, downward, and horizontal feedback we talked about.
So a story starting in the microsystem can ripple upwards.
Absolutely. And macrosystem narratives constantly filter down, shaping individual and group realities. Narratives move, reconfigure across these levels.
And those cognosystemic memes are the vehicles for this movement.
They're the key information carriers, yes.
Yeah.
Like cultural genes replicating, adapting, evolving. They're strategic tools within the cognosystem used to validate, change, or even challenge existing narratives. Highly adaptable, highly influential.
Okay, bringing this all together, what are the practical implications of this systemic narrative view for analysis and intervention, especially in social work?
It offers a powerful diagnostic lens. Professionals can identify narrative systems that have become too closed or rigid.
Systems that aren't engaging in that healthy exchange, that resist feedback.
Exactly. These often lead to dysfunction, stagnation. Recognizing that systemic pattern is crucial.
And intervention isn't just about changing the individual's thinking.
No, it's about understanding that you need to modify the systemic relationships and structures. You're intervening in the feedback loops, the flows of information, the narrative patterns.
So social work becomes about facilitating new narrative inputs, helping introduce different stories or perspectives.
Precisely. And fostering transformative feedback loops, helping the system learn and adapt in healthier ways. Working with the system's dynamics.
Helping people, families, communities, co-author new more functional stories.
Yes, fostering sustainable solutions by understanding the interconnectedness of the individual and their environment.
And this view reinforces that change isn't simple or linear.
Absolutely not. It's systemic. It's often gradual. It has multiple causes. Think Kurt Lewin's unfreezing change refreezing, or Tharp's delta theory change happens in phases. It's adaptive, nonlinear.
So ultimately, this TCCR perspective empowers social work. How?
By enhancing the capacity of individuals and communities for adaptability, for resilience. It fosters well-being and agency by giving people tools to understand and, crucially, rewrite their personal and collective stories.
It's about reclaiming narrative power.
In a very real sense, yes.
So let's synthesize this for the listener. What's the big takeaway?
The big takeaway is that systems theory gives TCCR this incredibly rich, language, structural, conceptual, to see narratives not just as static tales, but as living, organized, evolving processes.
Like ecosystems of meaning.
That's a great way to put it. And this view moves psychosocial analysis and intervention beyond fragmented approaches. It offers a truly holistic understanding of how we construct our human reality.
It deeply enriches the field.
Significantly.
So a final thought for you, the listener, to reflect on. If our realities truly are shaped, moment by moment, by the narratives we inhabit,
how might understanding these ideas, open systems, feedback loops, the self-generating nature of stories, empower you?
How might it help you reauthor your own story and perhaps even influence the larger narratives unfolding around you?